Throughout the annals of folklore and mythology, few figures have captured the human imagination quite like witches and vampires. These supernatural entities, often relegated to the shadows of society, have permeated cultures across the globe for centuries, evolving from objects of terror to complex characters worthy of sympathy and admiration. While seemingly distinct in their origins and abilities, witches and vampires share remarkable connections that transcend mere coincidence, suggesting deeper symbolic ties in how humans conceptualize the supernatural. Witches have existed in human consciousness since ancient times, appearing in nearly every culture as individuals with access to mysterious powers beyond ordinary human capability. The classical European witch emerged as a woman who made pacts with the devil, flying through the night on broomsticks to attend Sabbaths, where they would engage in inverted Christian rituals and conspire against the righteous. These conceptions often arose from misogynistic fears about female autonomy and knowledge, particularly regarding healing and natural medicine. Women who lived independently, possessed knowledge of herbcraft, or rejected societal norms frequently faced accusations of witchcraft, leading to the deaths of thousands during the infamous witch trials spanning from the 15th to 18th centuries across Europe and colonial America. The modern understanding of witches has undergone significant transformation, evolving from purely malevolent figures to complex practitioners of nature-based spirituality and magic. Contemporary witchcraft encompasses numerous traditions, including Wicca, which emerged in the mid-20th century, emphasizing harmony with nature, ethical principles, and the worship of pre-Christian deities. Witches in today's popular culture often appear as empowered individuals who harness natural energies, brew potions, cast spells, and commune with spirits or otherworldly entities. Their connection to nature, cycles of the moon, and ancient wisdom positions them as keepers of forgotten knowledge and representatives of feminine power that exists outside patriarchal structures. Vampires, by contrast, emerged primarily as undead creatures that sustain themselves by feeding on the life essence of the living, typically in the form of blood. Eastern European folklore gave birth to many vampire archetypes, with Romania's Transylvania becoming particularly famous through Bram Stoker's influential novel, Dracula. Traditional vampires were often depicted as reanimated corpses that left their graves at night to prey upon the living, spreading their curse through their feeding. These creatures were believed to possess supernatural abilities, including superhuman strength, immortality, and shapeshifting, while suffering weaknesses to sunlight, religious symbols, and specific materials like silver or garlic. The vampire has undergone perhaps an even more dramatic evolution than the witch, transforming from a grotesque monster to a seductive, tragic figure in modern media. Contemporary vampires often struggle with their nature, grappling with ethical questions about their feeding habits and their place between the worlds of the living and dead. The vampire has become a powerful metaphor for forbidden desires, addiction, social alienation, and the price of immortality. From Anne Rice's contemplative, aristocratic vampires to the teenage romance of Twilight, these beings have been recast as sympathetic outsiders whose supernatural condition serves as an allegory for various aspects of the human condition. The connections between witches and vampires run deeper than their supernatural origins, revealing fascinating parallels and interactions across folklore and modern fiction. Both figures exist at the boundaries of acceptable society, representing transgressions against natural law and religious doctrine. They share an association with night and darkness, conducting their most powerful activities under moonlight and away from the scrutinizing gaze of conventional society. This nocturnal existence places them in opposition to the daylight world of ordinary humans, creating a symbolic division between the natural and supernatural realms that both creatures inhabit, albeit in different ways. Historical persecution links these supernatural entities, as both witches and vampires have served as scapegoats for societal ills and unexplained phenomena. When crops failed, children died mysteriously, or illness spread through villages, communities often blamed witchcraft or vampiric activity. The methods for identifying and eliminating these threats shared disturbing similarities, including trial by ordeal, mutilation of the body, and public execution meant to purify the community. These practices reveal how both figures functioned as repositories for collective anxieties about death, disease, and social deviation, providing tangible enemies against which communities could unite. Power and transformation represent another significant connection between witches and vampires. Witches transform materials through potions and spells, while vampires transform humans into their own kind through blood exchange. Both possess knowledge forbidden to ordinary humans and wield powers that subvert natural laws, offering alternatives to conventional power structures. The witch's magic and the vampire's immortality represent paths to agency outside sanctioned channels, particularly appealing to those marginalized by mainstream society. This transformative aspect explains why both figures have been reclaimed in modern times as symbols of empowerment by various subcultures and identity groups seeking representation outside normative frameworks. Literature and popular culture have frequently explored the relationship between witches and vampires, sometimes positioning them as natural allies and other times as adversaries. From the shared supernatural universe of True Blood to the complex magical politics of the Vampire Diaries, contemporary fiction often depicts witches and vampires inhabiting interconnected magical ecosystems. Witches sometimes appear as the only beings powerful enough to create or destroy vampires, establishing a balance of power between different supernatural entities. This relationship suggests a natural order within the supernatural world, with witches representing natural magic and vampires embodying unnatural immortality, creating tension between these different expressions of power outside human limitation. The cultural impact of witches and vampires extends far beyond entertainment, influencing how societies conceptualize gender, power, and morality. Witches have become powerful symbols in feminist movements, representing women's reclamation of autonomy and knowledge historically denied to them. The evolution from persecuted crone to empowered practitioner mirrors the journey of women seeking liberation from patriarchal constraints. Similarly, vampires have evolved from representations of aristocratic predation to complex metaphors for sexual minorities and those living with chronic conditions, particularly after the AIDS crisis recontextualized blood-based narratives in the late 20th century. Both figures continue to adapt to contemporary concerns, addressing modern anxieties about environmental destruction, technological dependence, and spiritual emptiness. Witches increasingly represent ecological wisdom and sustainable relationships with nature, while vampires explore questions of ethical consumption and the psychological toll of witnessing history across centuries. Their enduring popularity suggests these archetypes fulfill essential psychological functions, allowing exploration of taboo desires, feared outcomes, and alternative ways of being that mainstream culture cannot directly address. Through these supernatural figures, humans can safely examine their own darkness and potential for transformation. Witches and vampires, despite their distinct mythological origins, share profound connections as outsiders to conventional society, who offer alternative relationships to power, nature, and mortality. Their evolution from objects of terror to complex figures worthy of empathy reflects changing social attitudes toward difference and authority. As both have been rehabilitated in popular culture, they have become vehicles for exploring contemporary concerns about gender, sexuality, environmental crisis, and social alienation. Their enduring appeal suggests that humans continue to need mythological figures who transcend ordinary limitations, offering both cautionary tales and aspirational possibilities. As long as societies struggle with questions of power, otherness, and the boundaries between life and death, witches and vampires will continue to haunt our collective imagination, evolving to reflect our deepest fears and most fervent desires.